Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. When Camden Games reached out to me about Asteroid Dice, their new dodgeball dice game, I was pretty interested as it has some of my favorite things in these small card games. It's engaging, but quick, easy to learn, and something that can be played with all different player counts. In this review, we'll talk about my pros, my neutrals, as well as my cons about the game, and my recommendation for all of these different age groups. I played this with middle schoolers, high schoolers, and adults, and I'm ready to give my recommendations on it. Now, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow. And for those of you already subscribed, thank you so much for the continuous support. Let's talk about Asteroid Dice. Now, this copy of Asteroid Dice was sent to us by the publisher. This is Camden Games. They have published a variety of different games at this point, but Asteroid Dice is going to be coming to Kickstarter soon. So that's something you need to be aware of. As the recording of this video, it's going to launch in about 4 days here. So this is a pre-production copy, and it also has a constantly changing rulebook, and I've been able to give some feedback for the game and seen some of these changes happen in real time. So it's something to be aware of for this review, as this is not a completely done version of the game. So that all out of the way, let's talk about what Asteroid Dice is. As mentioned in the introduction, Asteroid Dice is a dodgeball style card game. There's 2 different versions available currently, and the Kickstarter may have more options, different skins, but we have the arcade version here, which is a bit more colorful. There's also the deluxe edition here that has a different color scheme. There's also some expansions that you can purchase, but we'll talk about the core game itself and the Asteroid Dice arcade version, the one that I got to play. So that being said, to actually play the game, everyone is going to receive an identical set of these action cards. You'll put them in your hand, secretly choose one face down at the start of the round, and then everybody will reveal that card. Based on the card, if you're matching with anybody at the table, then you're going to be chasing for that matching die in that middle of the play area. So if you and another person match with the red, you go and grab the red die. There are also the different shapes of dice. So this is a 20-sided die. You might have an 8-sided die, so you can use it. It is colorblind friendly because it's also based on that shape as well. So you can go ahead and grab it for that. Now, if you are able to match with somebody and you grab the matching die, you are the winner. You get to claim that die, and you're actually going to take the card from the loser and put it into your score pile. So after you've done that, anybody who does not have a die that didn't win one of those brawls will take one of the dice that's remaining, and then everybody rolls off with the dice that they've collected. There's also some extra special cards that you may have to resolve as well, but the main thing is you're trying to roll the highest amount on the dice that you're picking. If you are able to roll the highest amount, you gain all of those cards that were put up and revealed in the center of the table, unless they were already taken in those challenges. At the end of the round, everyone will grab another card from their hand, put it face down, reveal it, and this process will continue until everybody has used all of their cards. So it is a pretty quick game with only 7 single rounds, and whoever has the most points at the end wins. Now that you know how to play Asteroid Dice, let's get into the review portion, starting off with my pros. My first pro is just the clear and well-paced structure of the entire game. I love the simultaneous play and how there are set phases. Everyone takes their card, everyone reveals their card, everyone that matches grabs the die, and it's a nice, well-paced game that doesn't outstay its welcome. You're going to get in, you're going to get started playing, and everybody is going to know where everyone is at. There's going to be no confusion as to what part of the turn you're in. I love this in these dexterity style games, and it makes it approachable for everyone, knowing that they can be on track with the game. The next part I enjoy about this game is the card play. It's a strategic planning phase that you get that interrupts the performance phase. When I say performance phase, I mean the actual moment where you need to be on it. That means you're observing everything, you're grabbing the dice and throwing them, and then after you've done that, you get time to think about the cards that you're going to play. And the cards themselves have meaningful choices to them. If you play this red die, that means that you're going to be in potential contention to go and grab the red die. You can watch other people to see what dice that they've already played and the cards that they've already used, so you know what you can potentially match with and who you need to be focusing on. In addition, there are point values affixed to these cards, so based on the cards that you're trying to win, you may be choosing certain ones of these. It's a really cool combination of this planning, but also the randomness, and that simultaneous reveal gives you that bit of uncertainty that's going to keep you engaged throughout the experience. So I love the card play in this one. That's my second pro. My third pro has to do with the consequences that are from grabbing dice without thinking. And I love this because sometimes in these dodgeball style games, the best move is to just grab whatever die color that is out there without thinking. There's no actual reason to observe or look at anything that's on the board. So I love that there's actually a penalty to grabbing the dice out of order. So it forces you to actually think about what you're playing, look, and then take that action and grab the dice. If you do grab a die out of order when you're not supposed to, you're going to lose your highest card from your score pile. That's pretty detrimental. However, I think it's also brilliant because it does not kick you out of the current round. You're not losing a turn or skipping your action or anything, but the penalty is just as severe. I love this elegance to this penalty system, as you are, yes, losing a big point thing, but that event has already happened. You still have the opportunity, you still get to participate, and you get to grab dice and roll them still, so you're not kicked out of the round. I think it's an elegant solution to this large problem, and it makes the card play matter that much more, and also increases your engagement because you need to be paying attention. It's not just mindless grabbing of the dice. My next positive here is the dice variety. Not only do they come in all shapes and sizes, which is fun as you're able to see all these different types of dice you may not use in your standard games, but they make for exciting challenges. So whenever you're grabbing dice, you can clearly see which dice have better odds. I love that. It also adds to the card play, as some dice are going to clearly be better odds, but that means that multiple people may be trying to play that. And lastly, there are two cards that interact with the values in interesting ways. First off, there's this I can't decide card, and when you play this card, that means that you get to pick whatever dice are left over. So based on your prediction, you can grab the best odd dice that's remaining between all of the ones that everybody else didn't grab. I love this concept. And then the second card that leans into this is the Losteroid card. Now, Losteroids, they're special where you go after everybody on your dice selection, but it also gives you a reason to maybe grab one of the weaker dice, because you're going to say a number, and if anybody rolls that number during that roll phase when they're trying to win, then instead of the highest roll taking all the cards, then the Losteroid player removes all the cards, so nobody gets those points, and they're able to put this Losteroid card into somebody's score pile, which makes them lose their highest scoring card at the end of the game. It adds some meaningful choice on low numbers as well as high numbers, and gives you some importance on these lower dice. It's a cool way to make relevancy of these smaller dice while still wanting those high dice for actually winning those challenges. That's my next one. That is the dice variety. My next positive has to do with losing the dodgeball challenges. Now, of course, when you match with somebody, you're going to want to grab that die, throw it at them so that you can get that card, and it's going to be a guaranteed point for you. But if you do get hit, it's not the end of the world, and I love how this game softens that blow a little bit by giving you more choices and options. Let's say you get hit by the 8-sided die here. That's okay. The other person gets your card. They get the 8-sided die to roll during the round, but let's say that there's a couple of other dice out there. You're going to still get one of them, and you can choose which die that you actually want. I like this sensation because you can get a better odd die from losing a challenge, so you're not completely out of scoring those points for the rest of the round. It gives you some great choices even when you're on the losing side of one of these dodgeball challenges. My next pro has to do with the maintenance, the setup, as well as the resetting of the game, and how it's flawlessly integrated into the experience. Now, for the setup, you just put the dice in the center of the table, hand people a deck of cards, and they're ready to play. There's no shuffling. These cards are unique, and you're able to look at all of them because you're making that single selection. You're able to get the game going right away. And then as you play, your gameplay is actually so smooth because of the natural resetting of these dice. You're going to be grabbing these and throwing them, but if you are throwing them, you're going to claim them as part of the game experience because that's what you're going to roll in the next phase. Your dice will find their way back to the center as part of the gaming experience. I love that because there is no set down time and no having to reset. Everything is smoothly integrated, and it makes for a great tempo and pacing of the game experience. And my last positive for this arcade edition of Asteroid Dice is just the artwork as well as the presentation and the clear visibility of it all. One thing when you're doing these matching games that you need to make sure you can do is be able to identify things, and the bright colors here, the huge pictures of the dice, they help out with that. So as soon as somebody reveals a card, it's pretty dang clear that, oh, that's that specific die, whether it be the shape or the color that you can notice. I think that Asteroid Dice does it so it's clearly legible and you're able to see things from a distance and still be able to grab things within a timely manner. So those are all of the pros, the positives of Asteroid Dice. Now let's get into the neutrals and then of course the cons, the negatives. So that being said, I do want to quickly remind you that this is a pre-production copy of Asteroid Dice. They still are making adjustments to the rulebook as well as the system in general. So this is something that will change, and I want to make sure I preface these neutrals and cons with that because I think it does matter, as these are things that can actually be changed with the final production copy. So the first one I think is definitely a neutral because it is just a quick couple of terms and words, and I think it can be easily fixed, and that has to do with the clarification on the rulebook here with the Losteroids. Now, as mentioned before, those Losteroid cards, if you do play one of those Losteroids, then you are going to be able to call out a number, and if that number is rolled, then whoever called out that number gets gets to place the Losteroid in somebody's pile, and then all of the other scoring cards are removed for that round. But in the actual rulebook, there are several instances where they talk about different people being able to put the Losteroid cards into other people's pile. So I just like to see some more clarification on the Losteroids themselves, because they are one of the more overt and more ambiguous concepts in the rulebook, as well as one of the only special power cards in the game. There's only that I can't decide card, and then the Losteroid cards that do have special effects. So definitely having certain clarification on timing and make sure that's in the rulebook in the future. So as mentioned before, this is a neutral because I do think it's a pretty easy fix, but there may be some questions about it. So that's my only neutral for this game. That is the clarification in the rulebook for the Losteroid cards. And that brings us to our last section, the cons, the things that I didn't like about this game. Now, our first point has to do with the sharpness of the dice. And I do want to mention that Camden Games did specifically address this in their pre-production copy of the game. So I want to make sure that I preface this here, that this is something that is known and will be addressed, but something that I do want to make sure that I let you know upon review here. Now, the dice are sharp, particularly these two, the 20-sided dice and the 8-sided die. As you can see, they're these large triangle sides that come to this sharp point, and when you're chucking these, they can definitely hit you and can feel pretty impactful when they do. Same thing with the 20-sided die here. You've got a lot of sides, which means you're going to have a lot of points that will come into contact with you. So I do imagine that when they create their final production copy, these dice are going to be of a squishier consistency, a softer material, and that's something that I definitely want to see in the future. I'll make a comment on this video once I do get a hold of a production copy of it, because I do see that this is something that they have addressed, but I did want to make sure that I mentioned it here. So that's the first negative, that is that the sharpness of the dice, particularly the 20-sided as well as the 8-sided die. My last negative has to do with the low point values on low odds dice cards. Now, what do I mean by this? Let's say that you and another player do reveal your sixes, you match, and then you're able to grab the die and hit the other person. Excellent. But what's your reward? Your reward is you get to roll the 6 die, the one with the worst odds, during the roll phase to try to get all the other cards, but you did score yourself a nice 1-point card into your score pile. It's honestly not that great of a reward, because the other player, yeah, they missed out on the 1, but now they don't have to roll the 6-sided die. If the 20's there, they can grab that, and all of a sudden they have great odds to actually roll in the next phase, and it can feel pretty bad when you have done the awesome thing of getting to hit somebody with a dodgeball, and then your real reward isn't that great. You get bad odds, your point card wasn't that good. It can feel pretty frustrating when you're getting, honestly, it feels like you're being punished for winning the dodgeball with these low value cards. It almost feels like this game should have these values reversed, where maybe the 20s offer the lowest points because they're going to give you the best odds in the roll phase. So I'd like to see some tweaks done with the point values of these cards, as it does feel a little unsatisfying when you actually win the dodgeball challenge with these low odds dice. That's my negative here. That is low point values on low odds dice. And that brings us to my final thoughts, as well as my score and review for Asteroid Dice, the Giant Roll and Collide Dice game. So I'm going to be giving Asteroid Dice an 8 out of 10. It's a very good game. I like to play it. I'll probably suggest it, and I'm never going to turn down a game. Now, this is rated with the BGG rating scale. That being said, Asteroid Dice is a full recommendation from me. It's my favorite game in this dodgeball genre, competing with other titles like Throw Burrito. I love the pacing of this, the tempo, the lack of setup or shuffling. You're able to get into the action, have a great time, and you're getting to roll these colorful dice that feel great to roll, feel great to throw, and you're always engaged in it. You're simultaneously playing, there's no knockouts, and it's always happening. I love that. My pros are as it's clear and well paced. The card play is interesting as you're trying to predict the different cards, but there's always that tension on the reveal. It keeps you engaged that entire time. There are consequences to grabbing things out of turn, but you always have the potential of being actually able to grab something. I love that. Keeps you on your toes. There's dice variety, which means that you are going to be excited when you get low and high numbers based on the cards that you play. And losing the dodgeball challenge is not the end of the world. There's still chances to get better odds in the future. The color and the artwork stands out. It's a vibrant, it draws you in, and as mentioned before, that maintenance is completely gone in this game as it's tied into that gameplay pretty dang seamlessly. I love it when games do that. And And my neutrals, once again, a couple of things to fix up on the rulebook, and then those sharp dice that they're definitely addressing in the final version is one of my cons, as well as that low point value on your cards. And that low point value is definitely something that you're going to feel once you've played the game a lot, but it may be something that younger audiences completely don't understand, as winning a card still feels good, so it's not the end of the world, but if you do sit down and think about it and piece it all together, it does feel pretty bad when you're getting, honestly, the short end of the stick by winning a dodgeball challenge. So those are my final thoughts here. My recommendations are you do play this at any player count. It goes from 2 to 5 players, and I think that all of them are interesting and fun. The 2-player game feels the most different, as it does have its own special set of rules. I'll let you discover that one on your own, but all the other player counts have you grabbing dice, chucking them. You have every player at the table that you're looking at and interested as to what they're doing, and you need to be on your game when that card is revealed, but it gives you those nice moments of levity where you can think and process, so you're not always having to be in that performance mode as you play. I like games that are real-time, that give you that time to think and take a break and not always performing the entire time. Asteroid Dice is going to get a strong recommendation from me, but also from the groups that I've played with, middle schoolers, high schoolers, adults. We've all had a great time playing Asteroid Dice and looking forward to seeing this final copy, and definitely going to look at trying to get multiple versions of this so that way we can do some dice combination, play with the expansions that offer more abilities. So make sure that you are following them on Kickstarter from Camden Games. We are definitely going to be following them ourselves. So looking forward to trying some of their final copies here and seeing what the Kickstarter has to offer. And that's the review. If you have any questions about what I said here, please let me know down in the comments below. And I want to give another thank you to Camden Games, not only for the copy for review purposes of Asteroid Dice, but also for being communicative as well as receptive to critical feedback, both positive and negative. And I'm going to give you one final recommendation here. I'm going to leave a link in the description below for Camden Games' Kickstarter for Asteroid Dice. I do not receive any kickback for this, no monetary funding or anything like that for my recommendations. So this is coming from me, Mackenzie from SideGame LLC. Get yourself a copy of Asteroid Dice. It's a game I really enjoy, and it has taken my #1 spot in this dodgeball genre. So that's my review for Asteroid Dice. Thank you so much for watching. SideGame Strong.